Trump is set to raise global tariff. Okay, we have a lot of uncertainty coming into this week. Okay, global tariff from 10% to 15% following the court rule. So he's macho manning it. Okay, which I said was going to end up happening. Okay, Trump is going to come over here. He's going to macho man some tariffs because he feels like he should be able to implement tariffs on nations. Okay, and he said he had another plan where Section 122 that allows 50 vote crowd. There's rules that he said he was going to bend in order to let these tariffs continue to go through and continue to profit off of them. Okay. Now, will the court force Trump to refund tariffs? It's only an 18% chance. I mean, that's very, very low. It shot up to around 33% 2 days ago at 6 p.m., which was Friday. Okay, after the market closed a little bit. So, it's going to be very interesting to see this play out. And 18% chance is very, very low. I don't, we'll have to see, man. But another thing is pending home sales. It is the lowest it has ever been, which isn't really that crazy. I mean, this has been at this area, a bunch of times in COVID, 2025, again, like mid 2024, and now it's happening again. It's actually sliding a bit more. Okay, so that's something to keep an eye on, and also Iran. And also the cartel. Okay, there's a lot happening this week. There really is. There's a lot happening this week. Now, the general public will want to come into this week bearish. Now, I'm gonna let the TA tell us tell me if it should be coming, if we should be coming into this week bearish. Although I do think now that all the news is out, we should be putting, the majority of people probably think we're bearish right now, right? Let's see. We're gonna look at the fear greed. The fear is at 43, which isn't that bad. Let me refresh it really quick. Let me see if these are up to date. Yeah, 43. And then, we're in extreme grid. A lot of people are in puts right now. It's only at 84, which isn't that crazy. It was at 88 coming into Thursday, Friday. And, as you saw, a lot of people got squeezed on that Friday. But there was some stocks that actually went down. Okay. But this is the highest it's been since the April tariffs. Okay. Back in April 8th, where we had that large move to the downside. We're actually going to move over to the charts where we had that large move to the downside, like you see right here. Okay, this is the peak of that put and call ratio, which means there's a lot of people that were just bearish, and then ultimately, this thing bottomed out at 403 and had a $50 day. I don't know if some of you guys remember that, but so much money was made on that day. So we're inching up there right now. This is definitely something to pay attention to. And I'm definitely paying attention to it. And the funny thing is, it's not even like we're dumping. It's not even, we really have just been stuck in a range, since what, October, for almost half a year. Hold on, we've been stuck in a range for a very long time. Okay, I would actually put it right here. We've been stuck in this range for 155 days. Of movement that hasn't really gone to the upside, hasn't really gone to the downside, just has been volatile. Okay, so the market is looking beautiful if you ask me. 155 days of consolidation, Nvidia earnings coming up, a lot of factors that are either going to push this to the downside or push it to the upside. I think we're set for a very interesting market this week and the coming weeks. But one thing I do want to note is that I am seeing some hidden weekly divergence. Okay, from this low to this low, that just means, we're making a higher low, but this is making a lower low. The last time we saw something like this was right here from here on these two legs. And what we got after was this bottoming out at 580.81 and going all the way up to 630. Okay, and actually putting in almost a new all-time high. We consider this consolidation, but very interesting. Okay, this thing ended up making a $50 move after this weekly hidden bull divergence, and now it's even lower than it was right here. So, it's hard for me to be bearish coming into this week. It's hard for me to be bearish overall. We're going to play the chart. If we look at smaller time frames, we are at a very interesting level where, this is a rejection level. As you see, like from the top to the bottom, this is actually where we keep rejecting, which is 608. We can't even close above it. Okay, so 608 coming into this week, or 609-ish really, is the level for us to close above, for us to start going to 615, 613, going back to 630 even, so very important level to be paying attention to. Another interesting level to pay attention to is to make sure that this continues to to stay above 603 as well. Okay, making sure this stays above 603, as you can see from right here. Okay, these are lower time frame, even 600, 600. Okay, 603. So these are just smaller time frames that you could pay attention to for, for obvious put or calls. Okay, so you see right here we bounce a bunch of times. It could go below here and it could retrace all the way back to 599. Below 599, I think that's actually where the real fun starts. Meaning this can start dripping all the way down to 680s. But we're gonna be paying attention this week. I mean, a lot of we don't we got to see what's happening with Nvidia. What's happening with Iran. What the general market is gonna do on Monday. We got to see some more price action play out. Okay, before we come over here and say this is massively bullish or massively bearish. But I will tell you to come into this week, not being either. Just being neutral, being very neutral. Okay, there's a lot of people that want to be bearish right here for obvious reasons, but that should actually make you even more bullish because But anyways, very interesting things. We're gonna look at a few stocks and then we're gonna get out of here. Okay, we're gonna look at IWM, which has been the leading index. Okay, which has been the leading index. This has been making new highs while the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq have been consolidating. This has actually been making new highs after new highs for the past months. Okay, and this is clear capital rotation, as you can see that's rotating out of tech into smaller caps, into the Pepsis and the Home Depots and the stable stocks, stuff like that. But what's actually happening right now for IWM is that this is sitting in victim level, okay? And it has been sitting in victim level for quite some time now, okay? This is victim level, meaning if you don't really want to mess with calls above, you don't really want to mess with calls at 265, okay? 265 is where, you should just be looking at it or looking to get puts. As that's been playing out time and time again, like you see, it keeps rejecting there. So you really don't want to be looking at calls at 265. Now, the only time you should be looking at calls above 265 is if it can finally start breaking above and, consolidating above, and then you can get that move back to all-time highs. This is a very important level because above here, we are going to start pushing all-time highs. But victim levels are very, 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 very important because you do not want to be a victim, okay? You want to be going. You want to be selling your 1,000% contracts to the victims. Okay. You want to be the shark. You don't want to be you don't want to be the plankton. All right. So buying right here is definitely irresponsible. But I do believe we're gonna end up pushing all-time highs eventually. I have IWM going to 300, but there's levels that you want to buy at. There's levels you don't want to buy at. And this level right here is a clear level that has been rejecting time and time again and is the victim level because above here we get to 271. Now, the levels to pay attention to on the downside is, 259 and then 255, which we've talked about multiple live streams. Like if you guys have been paying attention, to the previous live streams, this has been, the theme of it. We've really just been consolidating inside of here. But what happens when we start breaking below 254 is something, very, very nasty. Like we start pushing 244. That's why this level is so important right here, because this is a huge, there will be a huge downside movement if we start breaking below 254. Okay? So those are a few things to pay attention to coming into this week. Okay? The next thing I want to look at is Airbnb. Now, Airbnb has actually been a very strong stock considering what the market has been doing, and I think this stock could absolutely start making waves when the market finally does start getting more bullish, because Airbnb has been showing relative strength and even had a decent earnings. Okay, now the levels to be paying attention to is that it stays above 122 and that it can get back above 128, 131. So, I would call this target 1, target 2, and then really once it can get above target 2, it is going to then start getting to, around 140 plus. And really, if you zoom out on something like Airbnb, this is a stock that has been consolidating inside of this huge range. I think a massive move is coming to something like Airbnb when the market finally can start breaking out. So this is one that to just put on your radar for some time, and just make sure you're paying attention to it, okay? Because this is added to the S&P 500. It's been showing relative strength. It's been just sitting here consolidating after the IPO in 2021. And what we've been seeing with these stocks that IPO in 2021, they always come down and just accumulate until they're ready for distribution, okay? And distribution can really start taking this to 300 plus. I love Airbnb, but like I said, the few levels to be paying attention to: 128, 131, 145. Okay, above 131, that's where it should really start getting some momentum though. Love this setup. Love this setup. But one setup that I'm paying attention to even more so, is Airbnb, or not Airbnb, Alibaba. Alibaba. Now, why am I paying attention to Alibaba? We've been extremely bullish on something like Alibaba since 2024. Since we knew this was bottoming over here, okay? Since we knew this was bottoming in 2024, we're like, oh yeah, the first target on this is the 31K. The final target is the 36K. And that takes it back to all-time highs. I believe China's going through a massive, quiet, extremely bull period. And it's the year of the horse. You have people like, what's the NVIDIA CEO and everyone else saying, it's the year of the horse in China. China should be very, very bullish this year. I think the targets that I have are going to end up hitting, okay, 31,000, 36,000. And China actually they've been saying is more advanced than the United States in AI. Okay, so when we're taking a look at something like Alibaba, first of all, Alibaba has been in an extreme uptrend since the Hang Seng bottomed out in July. It just has been making moves to the upside. And now what we have is it sitting in just an amazing risk to reward situation, to where if you buy calls at 150, 154, even when the market opens tomorrow, you have tremendous upside with limited downside. Okay, meaning this is gonna end, like, you can just get out if it goes below 154 or 151. That's all you have to do, because then it'll probably not double bottom right here, but maybe inch down to 135, 136 ish. Okay, which would be the fib retracement, okay? And that'll be an even better buy. But I think, I think right here is where I'm definitely looking to take the shot. One that I'm definitely paying attention to coming into this week, just because Alibaba has been, or China, the Hang Seng looks like it's ready to make that next leg to the upside, okay? And then you even have the weekly divergence playing out right here that could potentially be playing out. It looks like it will be playing out. The last time that happened was right here. Okay? And then you had that extreme move to the upside where this went from 106 all the way to 192. Okay? Now, one more thing I do want to see, like, how long were these consolidation periods? Like, from this top to the bottom that you see right here, 139 days. That's crazy. And this one, 141 days. All right? Did we just find something that is, look, man, do with that information what you will. I absolutely love Alibaba right here. I think it's going to perform very, very good heading into these next couple weeks to months, etc. The target that I have is to, obviously the sky's the limit above 174, and then you have 220, and then I think it can ultimately get back to all-time highs and even 400 plus. I think Alibaba is going to be very, 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 very bullish, and it's something to be paying attention to. I think it can get to $1 trillion. Anyways, let's look at BA. A stock that I think is going to perform very, very good just in the bigger picture, and I'm really just looking to catch a nice dip buy on it. Okay, I'm looking to catch a nice dip buy on it, because I know that this stock is going to perform very, very good while Trump is in office. Because if you look what happened last time Trump was in office in January 2017, right here, around here, all it did was go up. Okay, it went from 130 to really like almost 500 to 443. Okay, BA had an amazing profitable uptrend while Trump was in office. Okay, I think the same thing is going to end up playing out now, but obviously we want it on a dip, kind of like the dip that we received right here, where it came into the buying area and bounced up crazy. I think the same thing could be potentially playing out now, where we do get maybe 219, maybe 220, but maybe even 206. I'm looking to see where price action will come down and chop at, or come down and we see an obvious reversal. But right here is not where I'd be paying too much attention to it, unless it can sweep that level, maybe come down to 225. So coming into this week, I'm mainly looking to catch an entry on something like BA. I think it has a little bit more downside, um, and I think we're going to be able to catch a nice bounce on it. Okay, I really do. I think BA is going to be incredible. I think it can end up going to 400 by the end of the year. And I think this dip will probably be the last dip that we see before this really starts pushing crazy. Okay, definitely paying attention to BA. Next, NBIS. A lot of people love NBIS. If you're in the Discord, you know what we did on NBIS. Okay, we did some very nasty things on NBIS. Over 412%. This really went like over 800%. Like really, so much money was made on NBIS from the puts that we played on this on Friday. Okay, and NBIS, a lot of people are very bullish on. A lot of people, want to be bullish on it because AI infrastructure, etc. But what you don't want to be bullish. You don't want to be bullish on this at the wrong time, okay? And the wrong time is where victims are created, okay? And why is this where victims are created? Is because you come over here, you draw this from the top to the bottom, right? And this is where victims are going to be end up being created, and that's where it's been created every single time. It inches into the rejection zone of the fib, and it rejects every single time. And not only that, you have to pay attention to something like sentiment for something like NBIS, okay? A lot of people think this is going to 200 plus, which I think eventually it will, but first, it may get to 65, okay? And the reason I'm saying that is because it kind of reminds me of Iron, and the same sort of situation where this went into victim level. A lot of people, thought this was going to end up, going to all-time highs, etc. But no, this is the victim level, and it rejected off the victim level, and now you have a possible dip to around $25 on it. So these hype stocks like NBIS, like Iron, even like APLD, okay? Now these are great companies, but the thing is that they're new. They have to prove themselves to a lot of Wall Street investors, to a lot of people who want to get into this and put massive amounts of money into these smaller caps. This is $8 billion, NBIS is what, 19 billion. So it's 25 billion almost. So what's going to end up happening is that, volatility, first of all, and second of all is that 25 billion is a lot. Like, let's not, 25 billion is a lot of market cap for a stock that I don't even think is 247 million, trading at almost 100x peak. Like, come on. So these stocks, I think, are going to be tested, and I think the people in them are going to be tested as well. So I think this is just a good opportunity to short it whenever you get a green candle to the upside, okay? At least until we're out of the murky water, okay? When we're out of the murky water, you will know. We'll see, a lot of stuff we'll know. But right now, I think we're in murky water. You want to be careful on stocks like this. You don't want to get sucked into the FOMO. And I think this stock is still ready to start pushing even further to the downside, perhaps. I think $90 is in store. Below 90, 83, like I said, I think 65 is a good level that I'd want to long at. And I wouldn't be bullish on this until it can, start having some weekly closes above 111, maybe even like 114, okay? And don't think you're going to miss out on it. Don't think you're going to miss out on it when it does get, if you aren't buying right here and you're waiting for it to get above here, you're not missing out on it, because when it can get above 114, you have some extreme price targets, like to 180, to 248. Like, you have some extreme price targets, but you don't want to get sucked in to buying at a terrible price, and even for this to never get back to where it was. That's a possibility. All right. But anyways, I appreciate all you guys for coming and watching the video. Make sure you like, okay, subscribe, and we'll be back on Wednesday. You guys have a blessed night. I'm out. Peace.